Hello YouTube and welcome to another review, and this time we have Revell's British Commandos World War II 176 kill. I didn't want to review this set. Ronan, who's on my subscriber list, has done a decent enough review and I probably wouldn't have touched it because of that. He's reviewed it and he's painted the actual figures involved, so there was actually no need for me to do this review. However, watching Ronan's video, I noticed something on the box, which Ronan did note himself. Obviously standard fare on here. I will say this is an old Matchbox mould. It's not a proper Revell jobby, so to speak. This is just a bought mould which they're just producing. But it's this on the side of the box which has got me rather annoyed, and I'll read this out. Between 1940 and 1945, special British units called Commandos undertook secret operations in German-occupied Europe. Their success were often exaggerated in British propaganda in order to divert attention from negative news from other fronts. This special unit was dissolved shortly after the Second World War ended. So basically what it's kind of saying is this unit didn't really do anything during World War II and was just basically there to provide morale for the people at home. Well, I'm sorry, I don't swallow that at all. And you know, it sounds to me like it's someone's opinion rather than factual historical information which they should be given. And as well, it's a product they're trying to sell. Why would you diss it down, so to speak, and not make people buy it? Because you would probably just, if you were a kid, just picking that up and think, oh, I won't bother with those. So that, I mean, my grandfather was a British Commando, so obviously I'm not happy about that anyway, and he was killed in North Africa. But if we think of the missions the Commandos have done, which is so numerous, I mean, I would have to look at something to actually sort of, you know, give you how many sort of campaigns and battle honours these guys have got. I mean, it's immense. You know, battle honours just for World War II. You've got the Adriatic, you've got Allah, you've got Anzio, you've got Burma, you've got Crete, you've got Dieppe, you've got Dives Crossing, you've got Flushing, you've got Greece, you've got Italy, you know, you've got landing in Sicily, you've got Montemarino, you've got the Normandy landings, North Africa, which is where my grandfather was killed, on Operation Flipper to kill Rommel. You've seen the video, it's in my videos. The Rhine, and I mean, this is all, there's absolutely loads here. And probably the most notable raid is Operation Chariot, where they actually steered a ship into the Normandy dock and blew up the harbour there. And I think it did kill about 360 Germans in that attack. And I think it was either shortly after that that Hitler issued the Commando directive, which was all commandos were to be shot if they were captured. And I mean, you've got the cockleshell heroes, you've got loads. So, you know, this by Revell is very, very poor. I did email Revell and asked them to basically tell me what they were playing at with that remark, and you know, or opinion, or whatever they choose to accept it. I emailed them on Facebook and on the actual website. They have a sort of contact information section. I got no replies. I got one on Facebook eventually from a guy called Stefan. Part of the German setup. Revell is German, by the way. And all he asked was, yeah, what's this about? And I've never heard from him since. But, you know, with a lot of Germans, the minute you mention World War II, they hide behind the nearest tree. But if you're producing these kits, which are World War II generated, you're a German company, then you've got to get things right. And you've got to kind of keep your customer happy. And you've got to be accurate with the truth. Now, yes, these figures are basically dressed in that early sort of Commando era, but it's not saying 1939 to 1941 or 1940, it is just British Commandos World War II. So if they want to amend that, which I think they should, then I think they really want to get on with it. I'll probably check some of the museums in Britain just to check that they're not stocking this kit with that sort of write-up on it, because it's just not accurate. It's not accurate at all, and I just don't like it. I'll be interested to know, I mean, are they on the German kits, are they putting, well, I mean, we all know what the Germans were up to. I mean, what are they putting on the side of the German boxes, you know? So it'll just be interesting to see that. So I'm going to keep an eye on these Revell kits and just see what they're coming up with. But that's my moan. Yeah, wasn't happy about that at all. And like I say, I'll review this kit. I was intending to do the Russians, the Airfix Russians, but they need a bit of building, and I didn't have the time, to be honest. So I've done this kit, which I wouldn't have bothered, but had I not seen Ronan's video, you know, that just sort of incensed me, really. Anyway, let's have a look at these figures. So what we've got here is the colour codings. I'm not so sure about the colour codings on this. Leather brown. And leather, is that not leather? Holz brown, so that's wood brown. Holtz brown would be wood brown. Looks a bit dark. I'll just say that cap looks a bit dark in their colour codings. It's quite basic on this box, I have to say, that is quite basic. So I think you've all got a good idea. You'll all have sort of uniform books or whatever, so you probably want to run with what you know. I don't think that colour coding is particularly accurate. We are getting 46 pieces here. We've got a bit of an action scene going on here. Usual Revell style. It's kind of computerish sort of look about it. The actual original Matchbox cover art is a lot better, actually. But c'est la vie. Interestingly enough, the original Matchbox set doesn't have a write-up like this has, so read into that what you will, but that was a British box set. It just recommends you to use their paints, which is hardly any surprise, but yeah, I mean, the box art's not too bad. It's kind of sort of happening, but I'd say the original was better. Let's have a look at the figures then. Now this was a set that I owned as a kid, and I think I had a couple of boxes of these. Now that's a guy bayoneting somebody on the ground, and I think there's probably just a little too many of those. Obviously he's got his Lee Enfield and his commando hat. Details not so bad. They look a bit slender. Bases are quite thin, but that's normal for the Matchbox figures. They are quite thin. It's great for war gamers because you don't need to put much foliage on the base. Well, that's a nice close-up there, so I hope you're getting that. Bayonet's a little bit stodgy. Quite like that guy. There is a bit of detail on him. He does look like he's moving pretty fast. A little bit of flash on him, but he's not bad. He's got that kind of Matchbox head, where sometimes in these Matchbox sort of sets the head is a little bit out of proportion, but it's not bad. He's got good movement. This one's quite a nice one. This is obviously the Bren gunner, and he's pretty good. There's plenty of detail on that Bren, but he's not bad. He's looking pretty mean with that Bren as well. You get a good couple of those. Here we go, some guy calling for more. He's got a beret on, so he could be an officer, and he's just calling the lads forward. This guy is the one who scales the ladder, which is included in this set. Not bad detail. You can see his jumper, you know, his creasing. He's got a sten strapped down his side. Let's just have a quick look on the back just to make sure. Yeah, same as the other guy climbing the ladder. That's our guy sniping along with his commando knife. Line down Bren gunner. Unfortunately, the mould hasn't followed through and we've lost the end of the Bren. The Bren tripod is one piece, so you can see that that's filled in. So it's probably a side mould. I think it was a side injected one. It's a shame because he's a nice figure. Quite a nice figure. Not bad. Just a shame about... let's do a back view of our Brenners. He's got his knife. Yeah, I mean, I remember as a kid these couldn't stand up on the carpet. I used to get really annoyed with them. And I did prefer the Airfix Commandos. Obviously it was the better of the two sets. There's two sets of Airfix Commandos. I think the good set has the canoes. There's our German who is being attacked. So I think he's been stabbed and he's dropping his rifle. The rifle's not slung, he's just dropping it. That's why that might look a bit odd. There's another guy in a beret, so he's definitely obviously the officer. He's got his pistol there. Again, he's got that kind of matchbox head, which sometimes the proportions are a little bit skew with. They're not quite 100%. But yeah, I'd say he's got matchbox head, as I like to call it. Which is a shame. There's our guy who has a little boat and he's the oarsman. Again, there's another section of the Bren gunners there, which is a shame. You can quite clearly see the end of the barrel is missing. Now on other sets that might be on, who knows, but I just expect it not to be included. Yeah. Let's get into focus. And this guy really does look like he means business, so you wouldn't want to come up against him in a dark alley. And that's quite a good pose because he's saying come on. And I mean, Commandos were exceptionally brave. They all knew going on a commando course they were probably going to die, but they'll do anything for a bit of action. These were the guys who were looking for, guys who were willing to take risks, and that's what the Commandos did. Not bad. I mean, Thompson looks a little bit large on one of them, and then the other one it looks a bit thinner, so they've obviously just had a little bit of moulding issues. And there he is, that's our guy sniping along with his knife. There's another one there with a rifle. There's quite a few of them. But, you know, very thin on the equipment, which is acceptable for the Commandos. They just really literally got in and out. They wouldn't have been carrying a lot. I'd say there was probably one or two guys loaded up with explosives. That's quite a good pose there. Take a look at that. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that pose. Quite good. There's our guy with the ropes. Again, he's got a little bit of Matchbox head. Just looks a bit stocky from the neck upwards. I think he's another one that he's either surrendering or does he have the ladder as well? I don't know. I'm not too sure. That's quite a good running one. And there's your raft. And I remember this from a kid, you know, it was never great. The oarsmen sometimes had trouble sitting in it, and it was too small to really stick any figures in of great amount. I think you could only get probably one in there. It's got two of those guys. So on this one here, he looks so like the old Airfix 132, 172 Commando. Oh, sorry, 132. I don't think they had this one in 172. But it's a nice one. I quite like that. Yeah, it's quite good, that one. But if you look, you'll see the difference in the heads, and that is what I call Matchbox head. And you'll see that appear in, say, their British infantry sets, their German Africa Corps sets, and their American sets. Yeah, that Brenner's always been quite good. Airfix as well have a good kneeling down Bren guy in their Commando set. Bearing in mind there is two of those sets and there's only one that's any good. There's your ladders. But yeah, I mean the Commando attire is very much they're attacking along the Normandy coast, the French coast, which they caused a lot of problems. So I mean, you know, this set will cost you upwards £8–9. Is it worth it? I think it's a bit steep, to be honest. It's an old kit and it wouldn't have been a lot of money. Matchbox did everything on a shoestring, so I think they're asking a little bit too much for this kit. And as I said, I don't think the description's correct. I think it's an insult. Everybody, if you just give this video the thumbs up and get the video out there, and hopefully we'll get them to change what they've said on this box, because I just don't think it's right. I mean, it really does. I think Ronan said it sounds a bit like sour grapes. Well, you know, that's putting it mildly, you know. I mean, I'll read it again. I mean, between 1940 and 1945, special British units called Commandos undertook secret operations in German-occupied Europe. Their successes were often exaggerated in British propaganda in order to divert attention from negative news from other fronts. This special unit was dissolved shortly after the Second World War ended. Well, the Commandos are still in action today. And there is an Army Commando, and we do have Royal Marine Commandos as well. I don't know many German units that are still going, but there you go. But if anyone has Revell kits, Revell soldier kits, then check out the side of the box and just start telling me what they're saying about other kits, because I think I've got the Anzac infantry. That's the only other Revell set I have. So let's just start checking these out. I'll be interested to see what the British infantry set says. God only knows. But that was my Revell British Commandos World War II 176 scale review. Like I say, let me know what you think. But I got this for about £9. I think it's a little bit steep. You know, and if you can pick up that Airfix set that I'm on about, it's probably a little bit better. But saying that, this isn't a bad set, but if you're wanting something for a decenter price, a bit lower, there is the Airfix one if you can pick it up on eBay. But that's probably, you're gonna have to scratch for that one. There's a Caesar set, not so sure it's as good as the Matchbox Revell and the Airfix one, to be honest, and you're still going to pay a lot of money for that. So yeah, if you can get your hands on it, I'd get the Airfix ones, and of course the Airfix writer won't be anywhere near as condescending and inaccurate as that. So like I say, no response from Revell, but I kind of expect that is a German company and they really don't like talking about World War II, and that was pretty evident in what message I got. So that, like I say, is the review. Let me know your thoughts. I'm sorry I haven't been spinning them out as much. I've been a bit busy, and I have got the Russians to do, the Airfix Russians. I've had a look at them. They're surprisingly not bad, actually, despite their age. They must be 40-50 years old. But I was actually intending to do that one before this one, but I got a bit annoyed, so I did this one. So like I say, don't pick it up just yet. I want to see what Revell are saying. I'll give them another couple of weeks, but I've already been waiting a week and a half for a response, and I've only had one, and that was on Facebook from a guy called Stefan, and he was just asking about what I was on about, and there's been no response since. So yeah, that's it. I'll keep you posted if anything that happens, and like I say, we'll finish that up there. Stay tuned, and I'll probably try and squeeze another video in next week, and that will be, as I say, the Russians. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.